pricing. Now, earlier we talked about that top 10 project pricing, and only 2 out of that top 10 showed a slight decline. Actually, we were looking at the average new sale prices of non-landed homes. These are all August sales. Interestingly, I think if you look at the first 8 months of this year, I would say prices have been fairly range bound. But if you look towards the July and August, you see in actually all regions a slight uptick in prices already. And I suppose what Kelvin and Ismail said earlier as well is true, because the pandemic, the recession, that has actually reduced the sort of headroom that the developer can raise prices. Ismail, what's your projection on prices? Where do you see prices heading this year? I mean, looking at these three regions, that we are still seeing that little uptrend. What's your take?
But I think overall, I still think it favors the buyers. The bottom line is today it is still the buyer's market. But the positive thing here is this. I mean, this only shows this year, but it also shows a very strong understanding how the market is reacting to a unprecedented global pandemic with trade tension and recession on the background. And yet we look at it, we look at the price, let's say the first right bottom, the gray. In January, it was 1466, which is the OCR. OCR is the mass market. And yet today in August, despite the background that we talk about, because you see, January people never felt about this COVID-19. I mean, it did happen in China, but people still felt that we are safe. It is going to be another small SARS or something, it will just go away. And yet, as far as the prices are concerned, yes, obviously when we look at April, there was a down because there was really the start of the circuit breaker, confidence was a bit affected. But then you look at May, you look at June, you look at July, and you look at August, actually it's 1521 on average. That's exactly the point that we are talking about. Now you put your ABSD now, where you want to put your ABSD? If you put in January a 7% ABSD, and now if the prices have gone up by 4-5% in 8 months, half your ABSD is paid by the market because of the market move. Okay, and even when I look at it, the green bar, the RCR, then I go back to January, February, 1829 in February, January was 18, but now it's 1895. In fact, in the last 8 months, the highest is in August again for RCR. And finally, the cost center. The only hit, I must say, is cost central region. But even cost central region have done relatively well. Okay, in April, that's why. If you see, just now, Swing was asking me a question. When should they buy? When you would have bought it from this April. Look at April. April was the lowest for almost every 3 sector. The CCR was 2003, but that doesn't mean all the prices drop because a lot of people also don't want to sell. So those people who sell are really desperate to sell or in a dire need to sell. So those buyers who make decision when the sentiment is to their advantage, get a better price. And that's exactly our point. We still think the pandemic is not over. We still think there's uncertainty. Therefore, developers are inching the price, yet sensitive. Therefore, overall, the whole year, I think the market is relatively stable. At best, 1%, 1 to 2% likely to go up. That's my view.
Did you say go up 1 to 2% for the whole year?
At best. At best.
Okay.
Actually, we noticed the first quarter it was a negative -1%. I remember, but the second quarter it was a plus 0.3. So for the first half of the year, it's a -7.
Yeah,
so
0.7, minus
0.7. Yeah, minus 0.7, less than 1%. But I'm looking at July, August. The third quarter is showing some resiliency and strong recovery. So if there is another 0.5, and by the December, the last quarter, there's another half, probably 1% or thereabout. Yeah.
Kelvin, what's your take? Where you see prices heading?
That's the reason why I'm saying that you can see that a lot of these customers actually decided to take action because very clearly seen that after the lockdown, the numbers doesn't seem to be dropping. So why are we showing this particular chart? Because this particular chart it's very important for the consumer to understand what you are buying today based on the prices that you are looking at. Is it above or below? So if you are buying something that is below, you know you are very safe, right? It depends on what you are looking at. But of course, PSF is just a very unique in terms of per square foot. But today there's another thing called the affordability, which is absolute price to see whether am I affordable. So there's two parts of the whole story towards this whole thing. But just on this particular chart, we can see very clear that, right, the market is actually stable. That is the good news that we are looking at. To all the homeowners out there, you cannot expect to sell a very good price too, because the market today here is just stable. So you cannot expect wow, I want to sell a very high price, also can't. So this is something that you can see. Of course, like for example, those who are actually intending to buy something in a CCR development, right? Ismail, there's a new launch coming at Hill at Holland. I understand that the price is only like 2,005 plus per square foot for a brand new development. And why they can't price it higher? Because of the current situation. But we have also seen a lot of 910 properties has gone up to even 3,000 and above dollars per square foot. So this is also another opportunity that a lot of customers who are interested in CCR property, this may be a very good time for them to start looking at it. Because why? You may think that CCR is something that I cannot afford. You'll be surprised, like, I mean, Ismail, do you know in Holland Village, right, to buy a 2-bedroom is only about 1.5 million range. Because in general, a lot of CCR property in 2 bedrooms is going at $1.7, $1.8 million. But today it's like $1.5 million. You can get a 2-bedroom just at Holland. The best thing is what? No, it's like freehold properties.
Yeah.
So this is something that I think for those people who are not familiar, who wants to find out, maybe you can actually find out a little bit more from here and all through our PropNex agents, because you can find out a little bit more information. Yeah.
I mean, one of the key things, sorry, Swing, I just want to cut into because I totally forgot that there's another launch that is known as Hill on Holland. And especially when it is going at 2005, we always say that we should minus off a 20% for a freehold discount if you want to look at it as a 99. I mean, it is only going at about $2,000. A $2,000 based on a 99 at the Holland and the brand new, I think it's amazing. That's why opportunities are there. Yep.
Thank you. This is another busy chart, but it's quite interesting. Basically, what this shows is we broke down each region, CCR, RCR, OCR, and we segment it by price quantum. So if you look at just the CCR, it shows that in August, 19.4% of the transactions in CCR fell in the 2 million to under 3 million quantum price range, and then 41.1% fell within the 1.5 to under 2 million price range. So interestingly, if you add these two together for CCR, they accounted for about 60% of the total transactions in CCR, which means 1.5 to 3 million is actually the CCR sweet spot in this case. And if you look at the RCR, similarly, if you just look at August, the sweet spot is around 1 million to under 2 million. So you add that 22% and 48.4, you get 70.4%. So that's actually very sizable. OCR, interestingly, that's if you add the 46.5 with the 28.4, you get 75%, right, of buyers buying under 1.5 million bracket, which really shows that this OCR group of buyers, they are the most price sensitive, and it actually gels with what our agents also observe on the ground in terms of these price brackets. Kelvin, you want to just weigh in or add some color?
Yes, I think this is something that is very, very important, because just like I mentioned about PSF, right? I also mentioned about absolute quantum, absolute purchase price as well. Then you can see very clearly, right? Why are we talking about 1.5 million to 2 million? Then we talk about 2 million to 3 million, right? Why are we showing all this percentage? What is the objective of showing the customer these numbers? Actually, it's rather important, because why? So that if you know that you want to buy something in a CCR at $1.5 million for a 2-bedroom, for example, I know that in the future, right, is it easy for me to sell to someone who can actually buy from me? And the true fact is that $2 million to $3 million is almost close to a 20% that people can afford to buy. That means people can actually easily pay. I mean, if you buy something at 1.5 million, the next time you want to sell at 1.8 million, do you think you have that group of customer who can buy from you? Based on the numbers, you can see that the people are they can afford to pay that kind of money. Because ultimately important here is that we want to buy something, we also hope that next time when we want to sell, right, it's something that I can easily offload, because there's a group of people that's available and ready to can afford to buy my property. And that is what I meant by the affordability of the customer. And that's the reason why just I mentioned about Hue and Holland, because it so happened that the absolute price is so affordable for a freehold, especially, like Singaporean, they all love freehold, and especially, to be honest, freehold property in the market is really not as many. I cannot remember offline what is the numbers that we have, because I think Sue, we have talked about this before, right?
Yes.
The 99 is such a huge number, but the freehold is really that numbers, because I cannot remember the exact
Yes,
number.
we have
but
that, but yes, it's not at the back
Yes,
of
it's
my head
just
as
that
well.
we never
Maybe
prepare
yes.
this. Just happened to talk about it. But this is something what people are looking at. That's why I think also, Ismail, we are talking about Myra as well. If those people who want something that is RCR, right, which is a freehold property, that one is also very price affordable, right?
And especially when it is only 2 minutes to Potong Pasir MRT.
Oh,
For Myra, just walking distance is just next to Coix, actually. With
yes,
the,
yes, yes,
We
yes,
will
yes.
show the map in a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we'll show the map in a while. So I think we'll
Okay, good.
move on to the next slide, mindful of time. So just
Oh,
very
yeah.
quickly do a quick recap on the last 8 months. So if you look at the first 8 months of this year, we're looking at 6,198 new homes sold versus 6,490 that's last year. So 4% down. Actually, it still looks fairly decent given the massive disruption from the pandemic. Maybe just let me put a question to Ismail here. Ismail, so for this year, 2020, are you expecting sales to top last year's 9,912?
I mean, that would be really be bullish, because when I look at it, it's 6,198 for the first 8 months. In order to exceed the 9,900 of 2019, I won't say it's totally impossible, but that would just will surprise me. Which means to say the next 4 months I must have 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. But I'm not going to say totally I'm going to rule that out, Swing. Though my prediction is 9,000 to 9,005, we may just be about 4% lower than last year. But please, many a time the current market has proven me wrong and surpassed some of my prediction. And even if it surpassed, then I think it's probably about 10,000. That's a good news, because that means people are taking advantage of the current market sentiment. Buyers are confident to buy at home. Yep, that's the way I look at numbers.
Right, Kelvin, you are you aligned on the
Yeah,
projections as well?
definitely. I think it's very clear. I mean, the good news here is that I still strongly feel that at the end of the day, today people who can afford to buy, because they have done all their calculation, because of the stringence by the bank, they know whether they can afford or not. So that is something that I think people are looking at long term. They will see this as opportunities, right? I always like to say here is that people tend to buy most people tend to buy when everybody is very comfortable one. But the smart people will choose to buy things when people are not comfortable. So that is the reason why people take action, because of all these things, because of information, right?
So this is just a very quick chart on the top 10 bestsellers in the first 8 months. Just now we saw first top 10 in August. So this is collectively first 8 months. No surprises. I think Treasure at Tampines and Park Clements, they've always been in the top 10 on a monthly basis. So they are right up there. And then we'll just move on to the next slide. So again, we are looking at the new home sales on an annual basis. This year, Jan to August, we are already at nearly 6,200. We're way past previous crisis level. If you look at global financial crisis, 2008, we're past that. SARS period, around the dot-com boom and bust, we are also surpassed 5,000 plus. So we're looking on track to probably trend closer to 2019, I would say. And earlier, I think we talked about some new launches. We forgot, before we go on that, I think just a very quick overview on what are some of the risks and support factors. We've always been talking about this already. So in terms of making a buying decision, you need to sort of weigh the factors to make sure that financially you have a plan that you have you can able to hold the property for at least 3 to 5 years. So on the risk side, we're looking at obviously recession, weak hiring outlook, and then COVID-19 resurgence. But on the supporting side, I think the low interest rate will help to support financing as well. And so some of the other points we already spoke about earlier. We're looking at new launch opportunities. We left out Hill on Holland, so apologies for that. Ismail, you were talking about a Verdale earlier as well.
Yeah, I think Verdale is something that is taking place this weekend. I think more than 100 over checks has already come in by the marketing agencies, and they're merging, and probably there's going to be a ballot to be done. But this is a very mid-size, less than about 300 units, and we are talking about at the Souza Avenue, not too far away from the Upper Bukit Timah. But what is very unique about it is the design concept, low-rise nature, a lot of greeneries, and I think something that doesn't matter for those of you who still haven't put in a check, either even on this Sunday and so on. There will still be some many units available. Go and check it out. A worthwhile product to look at the deal. Yep. Yeah.
And maybe Kelvin, you want to take us through when Penrose is coming out?
Oh, Penrose, it was really a huge response from this particular development. I think next week they will be actually officially start selling. I think that really the demands are there because there's not many supplies for this RCR, and I think the pricing was right. So I think for those people out there, you really want to if you really want to really visit, please call any of PropNex agents out there so that you can see how the design work, how's the pricing work. So they will be probably explain to you in greater detail, right?
And this is the freehold development that Ismail, you were talking about in
Yes,
Potong
right.
Pasir.
Yeah, that exactly. When we look at it, Myra is really very, very close to the Potong Pasir MRT. And that place is also going through a little bit of a transformation, the entire stretch. Of all the launches that is coming, other than Hill on Holland, which is in a district hand property, which is a freehold, among the RCR, Myra do provide an opportunity as a freehold, as a city fringe, which is definitely worthwhile to again check out within your budget.